At one of the train stations in the middle of the city, a girl, she's 20 years old, and a 28-year-old Iranian guy pushed her in front of an oncoming train. And what that was horrible, and people were calling for ambulance right away, and other people, this is what I like though, other people chased this guy down and they cornered him. And they held him until the cops came. By the time the ambulance arrived, she died from her injuries. Oh man, that's tragic. But this is not the first time. Things like this happen more in the center of the city, where there's more violent people. And it's so unfortunate. And Germany's laws are so lenient towards these kind of criminals that I'm afraid he'll just get a slap on the wrist. That's what I don't like about this country, is that their laws are way too lenient. So we shall see what happens, but I just thought, man, how tragic. Yeah, so tragic. She's just 20 years old, standing there. She's probably thinking, and maybe she's going to her boyfriend's, or maybe she's going home from shopping or something, and just in a few seconds, she's pushed from behind into this train, and a few minutes later, she's dead. Man, that really hit me last night, yeah? And I was thinking, shit, we have to live for those people who die like that, yeah? We have to make the most out of our lives and try to get things done that need to get done, and so forth. And this way we know we can honor these people, because it's so tragic, yeah, that her family has to be called and saying, hey, your daughter just died. And then having to tell them how she was killed, I think is really tragic. I think there's a big difference when somebody says, yeah, your family member died because of disease, or was an accident or something, and that's really, really sad. But to add to the mix that she was murdered, that just adds more pain, and that's too much. Yeah, so I was just thinking about that, and it's so sad. Several years ago, there was these two guys. They were gay guys, and they were coming from a nightclub. They were going home, and this was in Alexanderplatz. It's the center of the city, major tourist area. This is not a place to be hanging out, even during the daytime, yeah, because the train stations are in Alexanderplatz are really filled with questionable-looking thugs. You really got to be careful when you're in that area, even in the daytime. That's a train station I don't like myself. Anyway, these guys were. It was about, I think, 11 o'clock at night or something, and they were walking home. They went to the train station to catch their train, and they were followed by a group of Turkish guys. A shoving match started, and the next thing you know, one of these guys was beaten up, and the other one tried to jump in and help out his friend, but two guys held him down, while the others, I think there was about 8 of them altogether, while the other 6 proceeded to kick this other one's head repeatedly and kick him in the crotch repeatedly, over and over and over. They did this in the corner, and so people weren't aware this was happening. And it's really loud in the area because there's nightclubs and stuff like that. And so people weren't aware that this was happening. Finally, they got done, and those guys took off, and that the one that they were holding down, he was calling for help. And finally somebody came and they called the police. By that time, his friend had died. For several years, there was a guy going around train stations, and he would attack people from behind. Yeah, he would just really, really beat them up. Then he would take off. So it's kind of scary, yeah, in the evening times. It didn't matter where you were in the city. He just randomly would pick people and just beat them up. And so that's why whenever I'm at a train station, I'm really observing people. Yeah? And I don't stand close to the tracks. I just watch people. I think being kind of a big guy is kind of an advantage to me, and plus I don't look friendly. And people always tell me that. Huh? They say, "Dave, you don't even look friendly." Well, sometimes that's good to be that way. Huh? People get scared and take off the other ways. So I have that to my advantage. I don't look friendly. Oh man! But you really gotta protect yourself. Yeah, you have to always be on the lookout and see if anything suspicious might be happening. Yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy. Anyway, that was kind of sad. Yeah, that this young lady died like that, and I don't know the latest story on that because I'm thinking maybe this guy tried to hit on her and she told him to leave him alone. Because a lot of guys in the Muslim religion are very, very abusive. Now, not all of them are, okay? I have to insert that in there. Not all Muslim guys are this abusive, but Christ Almighty, a shitload of them are, yeah? And they're very oppressing in Afghanistan, where a guy didn't believe his wife that she was home alone with the child. He didn't believe her, so he grabbed her by the nose and cut it off, threw her outside in the street. And the laws in that country favor the man, and the chances are he will never go to jail. Yeah, because this is their law. Their law allows their men to be brutally cruel to their wives, to their daughters. This is horrible. I really don't like this. See, it creates this mentality. The religion creates this mentality, and in a lot of men in that religion, they take that mentality very extreme. And so they're going to be really nice and charming to you in the beginning. Yeah? And just help you in everything and just friendly, and they treat you like a princess and things like that. Once they have you as a wife, now you're a sex slave, you're a housekeeper, you're a cook, and that's it. That's all you are. And if you talk to somebody else, even if just somebody asks you the time, you're going to get beaten up for that. Yeah? And this happens even in Western cities like Berlin. Yeah? There are shelters here in Berlin, women's shelters, that are specifically for Muslim women who want to leave their abusive husbands. And this is such a huge problem that there's many, many of these shelters. And they're hidden, yeah, because these Muslim men, they're like a mafia, yeah, they're like a network. And if somebody finds out where one is at, the word spreads like wildfire. So these shelters, they cannot advertise where they're at. Yeah? But they're always on the lookout for women who are wanting to get out of their marriages and stuff like that. So they have their own network. See? Why does this have to be this way? Think of it like this. The women have to network themselves in such a way that the men will not detect where they are concerning these women's shelters. When a society has to be this way, what creates this is abuse, oppression. And so this is a reflection of that society. And in Berlin, there are lots of neighborhoods that are very, very Turkish, very, very Muslim. And when you walk in there, you think you're in Istanbul. And so they really have that abusive, oppressive mentality towards women. So that these women have to hide. They have to hide in places like this, and then what they do is they have to realize that they can't live in Berlin. So they have to look at another city to transfer to. They might even have to change their name. The fact that they have to be like this to escape their abusive men, and that this problem is so huge, this says something about that religion. It creates that mentality. I'm always talking about that mentality. That's the problem. And another thing that happens, even here in Berlin, are these honor killings, where if a Muslim girl talks to a guy who's not Muslim, their family is going to feel dishonor, that she dishonored the family. And so what happens is that when you see a Muslim girl walking around, just look around, really scan the area, and I guarantee you, you're going to find at least two guys keeping an eye on her. Make sure they don't see you, but you see them. Yeah? And watch them. They're going to follow her. Yeah? They're following her. What they're doing is they're keeping an eye on her. And if she talks to somebody who is not Muslim, see, they've seen it. There's two of them. Then when they go home, and sometimes these are her own brothers. Yeah. So when they go home, they tell their dad. And when she gets home, her life is over. Yeah? She's taken out out of the city and killed and left for dead. And they try to make it look like somebody else did it. And some of these guys, they will even rape her. This is their own sister, and they will rape her to make it look like, she was raped by somebody else. That's sick, but this happens. Yeah? So when you're a girl in this religion, your life is really limited. Yeah, you really have limitations as to what you can do. You're not really free, even though Germany is a country with freedom. When you're a Muslim girl, you're not free. And this is telling me that the Muslims do not abide by the laws of the state. They don't care about the laws of the state. They say their laws are important. And so they find nothing wrong with this kind of murder. And it is murder. See this mentality this creates? So the men view women as objects. And to get that object, you have to be charming. And they can really pour it on and just make you feel like you're the prize of the universe. Then once they have you, you're a slave. And if one rejects you, then in their thinking, anybody who rejects you does not deserve to live. And if that girl is a non-Muslim, then they think that when a non-Muslim girl rejects them, then they think this can be answered with killing her because she's not a Muslim. So she's not worth it anyway. When you're not Muslim, you're worthless. You don't deserve to live anyway. So they're just speeding up God's plan by killing the girl. See this mentality? This is not right, people. This is mental illness here. This is a man who's scared of women and therefore feels a need to control them. And when he cannot control the woman, then he kills her. This mentality is so strong. When you look at a religion, look at everything it produces, the good and the bad, okay? You have to look at the total picture. When you look at Christianity, yeah, you see bad things too. You see women that are oppressed as well, and they are subservient to the man. They use the religion for sexual reasons. This mentality so violates nature. Because when a man treats a woman like that, he's not a man. At the same time, he's damaging the woman. In a society that is ruled with the majority of the men abusing and oppressing women, they're brainwashing their women to be victims. And when this is on a huge, massive level, this is unhealthy. Very unhealthy. And when the religion says, well, you can't draw a picture of our prophet or we kill you, that is giving a reason to kill people who are not Muslim. They're looking for ways they can trick people so that they can kill them. That's Iktomi. Iktomi is a trickster. He tries to trick you into things that sound right, but then they aren't. But he makes it sound like it is. It's like a lawyer, and he tricks you. Sometimes in these stories it leads to people's deaths. It leads to mothers unknowingly eating their own children. That sounds Muslim to me. So this is not good to treat women like that. In Lakota society, we have a very ancient story called When the Moon Cried. And in the story, it creates a man cycle and a female cycle, a woman cycle. That both cycles are important. In duality, there's only focus on one. In religion, there's only focus on one cycle. Yeah? In some societies, they focus on the woman. In some societies, they focus on the man. In ancient Lakota society, the focus was on both. So this is why we're not matriarchal, we're not patriarchal, we're something else. In the Lakota way, there's always going to be at least 3 ways to look at something, always. But in the modern world, the religious world, there's only this and that. And the religion is one of them. And then they say, if you're not with us, then you're against us. Then you are the enemy. We are good, so that means you are evil. Either you join us or we destroy you. That's duality. And that's how a lot of these religions are. Islam, Catholicism, Catholics exterminated millions of people and felt that these people were animals, therefore they deserved to be killed. And then they took their land, they took their resources, they took everything. And South America was born, and parts of Central America and parts of America as well. So, you're going to believe something, you have to accept the history of that. Yeah? In Lakota Star Knowledge, it's a very ancient system, but there's no oppression of the genders. And in the Lakota ancient system, the society raises all the children. Your mothers and her sisters, they're all your mothers. And the husbands of these men are all your fathers. And all the children of those marriages are your brothers and sisters. They all can raise you. They're all equally important. Your mother's brothers are your uncles. And their wives are your aunts. And their children are your cousins. On your father's side, your father is your father, of course. So that means his brothers are your other fathers. And the wives are your other mothers. And your father's wife, of course, is your mother. But the women of your father's brothers are your other mothers. So you got moms and dads on both sides. Yeah? Your father's sisters are your aunts, and their husbands are your uncles, and their children are your cousins. See how that works? So you got a lot of moms and dads. They're all responsible for you. And if your biological mother dies, it's sad. You will grieve, but you have lots of mothers waiting for you. They're all going to take care of you. There is no orphans in the Lakota family system. And when you're born, you're taught so that you become a community, non-linear thinker. So that creates these values of humility and compassion. Nobody tries to rise above others. Leaders are servants. They are not above the people. They are with the people. And they serve the people. That's how it is in the Lakota ancient way. Today's way is not the same. Today's tribal government is not the same. It's not traditional at all. Today's tribal government is a product of Washington, D.C. Yeah, it's not traditional because in the late 1800s, there was a time when Washington, D.C. said, okay, we got all the Indians on the reservations, and now we're not going to recognize the traditional chiefs anymore. And they gave us a government that they forced us to accept, and that's what we have today. So we are not governing our people like ancient times. It's not the same. See what I mean? So today we're dualistic. So when I talk about ancient Lakota ways, that means today nobody is living that way. Very few people know this way. And I'm one of them. This ancient way. For us it worked when you didn't focus on either gender as being more important. We had a damn good society in ancient times. Yeah? The focus was on both the man and the woman. In ancient society, everybody plays an important role, and that because all roles are different, you cannot compare them. You cannot say this one is better than the other because each serves a purpose that is vital and crucial to the existence and survival of the society. So duality doesn't work in that kind of system. And that's how our ancient society was. Anyway, a friend of mine was approached. She's not Native, okay? My friend is not Native American. And she has something on the internet. And it's kind of nice, actually. And she talks about her interest in Lakota culture and spirituality and the language. And some guy wrote to her, and he had a picture of himself in the men's traditional powwow regalia. And he said to her, "So you think you can handle a native traditional man?" "I don't think so," he said. That's all that was in there. She showed this to me, and boy, I had to laugh. And he answered his own question. Oh, man. It's so stupid. So the comments that I was going to make to her, I thought I would say them on here because I think a lot of people could benefit from this information too. So that's why I'm going to make my comments on this show. And she's okay with that. Yeah, I asked her if it was okay and to answer her on the show, and she said, "Yeah, that's fine." And because a lot of, especially non-native women, can really benefit from this too. There's good and bad wherever you go in this world. A lot of times, Indian guys, they don't know anything about their culture because of that Christian brainwashing experience. Because of that, most native guys, they don't know shit about their culture. And also, the powwow world, this is not traditional. The powwow world is absolutely not traditional. Absolutely not. Powwow started around the early 1900s. It started with the Omaha Indians. They had a social dance. Everybody called it the Omaha dance. Omaha, that's what we call them. And this dance it's a social thing. It's kind of cool looking. And so other tribes picked up on that. So this is not an ancient dance. It's a social dance that was created in the early 1900s. Now, people, like especially in Europe, people they go to a reservation and they go to a powwow and their impression is they think this is what we were doing for thousands of years. No, it's not. Absolutely not. That's not what we were doing. Absolutely not. I mean, we had warrior society which would sometimes would sponsor a buffalo hunt, and then after the hunt there's a feast that happens. And I should say something about the hunt first. When they do the hunt, see, they don't just take, okay? They have like a funeral. It's like a funeral ceremony before the hunt. Part one is before the hunt. And at this time, they apologize that they're going to take some animals. But they make a vow that whatever they take, they're going to use for the entire community. Because remember what I said, they're community thinking society. When a hunter brings down the buffalo, it's not just for him and his wife and children. It's for the entire camp. So all the hunters, they know what they need. Yeah? So that's what they're going to take. So they do this apology, they make this vow, and then they do the hunt. It's a very spiritual thing because they're taking life. Yeah. Then after the hunt, the holy man goes to each animal, and the families follow it. Yeah, they follow the holy man. I mean, and again they make the apology, and then somebody does a offering of thanksgiving, and they say they're not going to waste any part of this animal. Every part of the animal can be used for something. But you don't hang the head on the wall. You don't do that. You don't do that to any animal because that's disrespectful. If you're going to hang the head of an animal on your wall, why don't you hang the head of your grandparents on the wall too? When they die, cut their heads off and stuff it and put it on the wall too. Because that's the same thing. Yeah, so this is why we don't do that. So if you go to a tribal museum and you see a stuffed buffalo, now you know that's wrong. Yeah, that's not our culture to do that. That's very disrespectful. And that goes to show you my evidence, my proof concerning that Christian brainwashing experience. See, we don't even think like our ancestors anymore. This is the evidence. Yeah? So, okay. Anyway, back to the ancient time. So after they make the offerings, they apologize and they promise they're going to use everything from the animal. Everybody in the camp is going to be fed. Yeah? Nobody's going to go without food. Everybody's going to be provided for. So then they process the animal, and then that night they have a feast. And whatever warrior society did this hunt, they get up and they make speeches. And they say things that they've done. But they're not doing this to say, oh, this is how good we are. No, 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 no. That's not the reason. Remember, they're community thinkers. When they get up and talk about their battle experiences, they're psyching up the people. So the people will say, look at our warriors. We have strong warriors who will hunt for us and protect us and love us, because warrior societies are not just soldiers. See, every warrior society focuses on a specific part of the population. Like one warrior society may help the women and children who lost their husband and father. So he's going to focus on them. Another warrior society may focus on the old people. See? Do you see? They all focus on a certain aspect of the group. So the warrior societies, they go around to take care of those that they're watching over. So they want you to feel good. If you're going through a hard time, they're going to help you. And they're going to go through that hard time with you. That's the warrior society of ancient days. Yeah? So when a warrior gets up and makes a speech, he does this, and then at the end, he says, so that we may live. He says, we, so that we may live. That's how he ends his speech. And everybody celebrates and see, because he's saying this is how we will live. It's we. Yeah? Isabella, we. I'm just making a small inside private joke here. Because in French, oui means yes, yeah? Anyway, sorry about that. Anyway, they say, we will live. So, this is how they did that, yeah? And during that time, that warrior society will sing its society songs. And the warriors in that society will do their warrior dances. And they celebrate like that. And the women have dances too, yeah? So this is how they did that. But this was not powwow, okay? That was not powwow. That was a society dance. It's not the same thing as a powwow. That was a spiritual thing. Powwow is not. Powwow is social. Okay? Powwow dancing is social dancing that is not ceremonial. So that's really important to remember. So today, a lot of young guys, they sign up on these single sites. And then they take pictures of themselves wearing powwow regalia to influence, try to impress European women. They want European women to think, wow, look at that, the traditional guy. And so they assume that that man is a traditional man. See, that's judging a book by its cover. That's really an unhealthy thing to do, to make an assumption. You have to be careful that you don't do that. When you assume things, this shows you're not healthy emotionally. You have to take the time to check it out. Instead of making assumptions, take the time to check it out. Then you can form your opinion. But most people in the dualistic world, they just make assumptions. And this is a sign. This sign means they don't do that to themselves, which means they don't have peace inside themselves. Because when you establish peace in your life, that process includes taking the time to know yourself. And when you do that, it's just going to be natural. Whenever you encounter something new for the first time, you will take the time to check it out. But when you assume, when you make assumptions, this is showing that you're not emotionally healthy. This is showing that you have not come to peace with yourself. You have not taken the time to know yourself. So you make assumptions. When you see something, you just make assumptions. You don't even take the time to check it out. And these single sites on the internet, they're all like that. Everybody just makes assumptions about the other one. They don't even take the time to know somebody. They just look at somebody's picture and say, wow, they must be really cool. Wow, they must be really smart. Oh, look at this Indian guy. He's wearing feathers, so he must be traditional. He must know his Indian way. How do you know that? It's just a picture of a guy in feathers. That doesn't mean shit. I could take a picture of myself in a matador outfit, but does that make me a bullfighter? Do you see what I mean? Just because I'm wearing a matador's outfit, does that mean I'm a bullfighter? You have to ask me. You have to take the time and say, David, I notice you're wearing a matador outfit. Do you fight bulls? And I'll say, no, I fight bullshitters. Oh, shit. Oh, man. No, yeah, that's probably what I would say, yeah, because that's the kind of guy I am. But then I would say no. I think bullfighting is a ridiculous thing, and I think it should be against the law. Yeah, and why I'm wearing this is because I think I look silly in it. You see what you did? You took the time to ask me. You took the time to check it out. But an unhealthy woman would say, "Oh, look at that guy. That guy's a bullfighter. He must be brave." See? She just made assumptions. And all that time, I'm wearing it just to goof off. You see what I mean? And maybe there's part of the picture that you don't see. You see what I mean? Maybe there's maybe what I was doing was I was fighting a chair. Yeah, maybe I was pretending this chair was a bull, and maybe that's what I was fighting was a chair. I'm fighting a chair. But the picture just showed me. It didn't show the chair. So you see, it's wrong to just look at a photo and say, "Oh, look at him! Look at this Indian man wearing all these feathers and colorful beadworks. He must be traditional. Oh, he must really be smart." How can you say that? It's just a picture. Maybe it's a Greek guy that's doing that because Greek men have facial features like us too. Maybe he's Italian. Some Italians can look Indian. I have a friend who's half Italian, and some Indians think she's Indian, but she's not. Do you see what I mean? You can't just judge a book by its cover. And you look at a photo and you see an Indian man standing there with feathers. That doesn't mean he's traditional. It just means he's wearing feathers. That's all. And if you want to know if he's traditional, then you ask him, what are your beliefs? And then you really research, is he correct or not? Because the thing is, he might know nothing of his tribe, but he's going to make it up. Yeah, because a lot of Indian guys do this. They make things up. And they do this just to impress girls. That's the reason why they're doing this, is to impress girls. They're not doing this to be traditional. And here's the most important thing. A real traditional native man never says that that's what he is. He never says he's traditional. You will know it by how he lives his life. He doesn't have to broadcast, "Hey, all you European girls, I'm a traditional man." He doesn't have to say that. A real native traditional man is humble, which means he's not going to broadcast. He's not going to advertise himself as traditional because that breaks the law of humility. So he doesn't have to say it. You will know him as you ask him questions. Then you will find out if he's traditional or not. I can pretty much say that just about all Indian guys who take pictures of this are so full of shit. They're just out for a one night stand. That's all they're out for. They want to have as many trophies as possible. That's all they're after. They don't know what love is because they're not thinking with their brains. So there's no love in those kind of people. So my friend who this happened to, now you know the guy that said, "Can you handle a real native traditional man?" He's not traditional. When somebody says they're traditional, they're not. Because a real traditional man will never say he's traditional. Because he's humble. As you get to know him, you will see what kind of man he is. So that means you have to take the time to check him out. Which means you have to do that to yourself too. You see how that works? It's really important. So he broke some customs here. This guy that approached my friend, he tried to impress her because he's dressed in powwow regalia. And it didn't work because she's not the kind of girl who's going to fall for that. Like attracts like. I have smart friends. And so he knows he doesn't stand a chance with her. So that's why he belittles her. That's how a lot of these guys are. When they know they can't get a woman, they're going to put her down. Or if she turns him down, then he's going to put her down. This shows you that today's Indian guys are just as bad as unhealthy guys all over the world. This shows you that most Indian guys do not know their own traditions. If a native man really was a traditional man, he wouldn't just say, "Can you handle a traditional man?" "No, I don't think so," and then walk away. He wouldn't say that. A real native traditional man, first of all, he's not going to say he is. Yeah, he's going to walk up to a girl if he's interested, and he's going to, "Hey, how are you doing?" and just start a conversation. And then carry it on and then see how it goes. See, he's taking the time to check her out, to find out if she's as nice as she looks. See, he's going beyond the physical appearance. Because a lot of nice looking people they're not nice on the inside. They're actually hollow on the inside. So that's why he's taking the time to check her out. So he's being a gentleman. That's a traditional guy. He never said he was traditional at all. But he's showing that he has certain qualities. So he doesn't have to say he's traditional. See what I mean? And if you're a healthy woman, you will be able to tell if he's real or if he's putting on an act. Because a lot of Indian guys, some of them are kind of smart at this. They know how to put on a show. So it's important that you really watch him because he might be really nice too, because he's charming and such, but then he's going to slip up. They all do. When you're only pretending to be nice, that never works. A bee can never pretend to be a mosquito. Never. Can you just imagine that? A bee flying around saying, "Ee." So likewise, a real traditional, I mean, a fake guy, an Indian guy who's full of shit and just wears feathers and Indian jewelry to try to impress non-Indian girls, and then trying to pass himself off as a traditional guy. And he keeps saying, "Yeah, I was raised by my elders. Yeah, says I'm a traditional man. Yeah, I do this ceremony. Yeah, I have this sacred item." And see, he's not being humble. That's the first thing. He might be really, really nice, but as soon as he starts talking like that, he's breaking humility. So that's a red flag you have to pay attention to. That's showing he's full of shit. So if you're hungry, go ahead and get the meal from him, then just dump him. Because he doesn't deserve it. He's full of shit. That's all he deserves. Yeah? Don't be full of shit either. You see what I mean? Even on Facebook. You see this on Facebook a lot, too. A lot of Indian guys, they dress up in powwow regalia and they put their pictures on all fancy poses and they do this and they're trying to impress girls, of course, and they want girls to think that they are traditional men. They want girls to think they are warriors, but they're not. 100% of them can't even speak their own language. That's a fact. 100% of them cannot speak their own language. And they're not traditional. They only want that one night stand. That's all they want. That means they don't know what love is. They're going to use you. Because once they have you, they're going to get bored. They're going to look for greener pastures right away. They're always looking like that. This is not a man. And it doesn't matter what culture it is, somebody who acts like that is not a man. So that's not traditional at all. A traditional man is humble. He doesn't dress up in feathers and leather and war paint. He doesn't have to do that. You will know him by how he lives his life. And to find that out, you have to take the time to get to know him. Ask questions. What do you think on this? What do you think on that? What do you like to do? And then you tell the same thing. Your opinions. That's getting to the center to find out how you really are. Because physical appearance is just the wrapping on a package, nothing more. You have to find out what's on the inside. If that's a nice person or not. And the only way to do that is you have to take that time to do that. So this guy that sent a picture of himself to my friend, he was wearing powwow regalia. This is not a traditional man. Because a traditional man does not disrespect women the way he disrespected my friend. The sad reality is she probably knew more about Lakota culture than he did. And that's why he felt the need to attack. That shows low self-esteem. That when women are independent and strong, this scares men who are emotionally insecure and they have inferiority complexes. This scares them. So they feel they have to attack, to oppress these women, to put them down, like this man did to my friend. So this is an example of an Indian man who has that same mentality that I was talking about at the beginning of this show, of that Muslim guy who cut his wife's nose off. That's the same mentality that this Indian guy had in putting down my friend. So you see, don't be pointing your fingers at the Muslims. You look in your own culture and you will find men like this too. So it's in the Indian world as well. See, a lot of European women think that, oh, I gotta be with a Native American man because Native American men are in touch with Mother Earth and they're in harmony with the universe. What gives them that idea? What makes them think like that? They probably got this from romance novels, from movies, which are all fantasy. They don't even take the time to check out the real thing. And that shows you they are unhealthy women. Because like attracts like. A group of Native American dancers comes to Europe and European women go there and they, oh, they must be all traditional, and they have their fantasies and they go there and think it's a really wonderful thing, and these most of these guys don't even know jack shit about their own culture. They know how to powwow dance, but that's not traditional. They're there to make money and have sex with European women. That's what they come here for. So this is not a man, and that sure as hell not traditional. So it's really important. If you want a good man, you got to be a good woman. If you want to find Mr. Right, you have to be Miss Right. You have to be the relationship that you are hoping for. Then you will find it, because like attracts like. But if you don't do that, and if you're just chasing after a fantasy, you're never going to find a healthy relationship, because you're not in one with yourself. So again, getting back to my friend here, this guy, like I said, he got scared of my friend because she's a very beautiful woman physically. And she's smart. She's really smart. And this was too much for him. And so he got scared of her and belittled her as a result. And that, like I said, that's the same mentality as this guy in Afghanistan who cut his wife's nose off because he believed she was talking to somebody else. See what I mean? That's the same mentality. Both men are afraid of the passion of women. The passionate power of woman scares these kind of men. So they feel they have to oppress these women and belittle them. And powwow guys are very disrespectful to women, especially to non-native women. And they make me feel ashamed because I'm native, they're native, and they embarrass me because they're making it look like all native men are this way. They're making it look like all native men are vain, foolish, just like them. That's why these powwow guys embarrass me. Because they're so full of shit. And they're not humble at all. They have this alpha wolf mentality. And the Lakota way is not that way. The Lakota way is a buffalo perspective. That means it's a community thinking perspective. Lakota people identify anciently with the buffalo, not the wolf. But today people identify with the wolf, and that's unhealthy. The way of the wolf is through fear and intimidation, especially of that which you are afraid of. Like these guys that are afraid of women. So then they put them down, they belittle them. Especially when that woman turns down their advances, then they put her down immediately. They belittle her, like this guy did to my friend. These are things that need to be told. People need to be aware that just because a guy is standing there in a powwow regalia, that doesn't mean he's a good man. And it sure as hell does not mean he's traditional. And I guarantee you 100% he cannot speak his language. He might know a few expressions, But if you get a fluent speaker to carry a conversation with him, he won't be able to do it. Just because he can sing a few songs, that doesn't mean he can speak. Most of these guys who sing in powwow drum groups, they cannot speak their language. 99% of the guys you see in drum groups in America and Canada, 99% of those native guys cannot speak their language. They know the songs, but they cannot speak their language. This is a fact. And a lot of these singers are like the dancers. They're very oppressive of women. Women who turn them down, they belittle them. This is disrespectful. So they're violating the virtues of humility, respect, compassion. Therefore, there's no wisdom. They have no wisdom because of that. Any relationship with a guy like that is going to fail. And if you try to force it to continue, you become a codependent. That's not love. I know some German women who are with Indian guys. These guys treat them like shit, but they still stay with him because he's Indian. That's codependency. That's not love, and it's a form of racism as well. So I just wanted to impound on that, yeah? Say those things. I don't even know if I used the right word. Impound. That's when you put up a cop takes your car, doesn't it? I think the word is expound. Let's see. Trying to sound smart here. Yeah, expound, not impound. One time there was this event happening on the reservation, and a local native radio station was there to broadcast it. So this was broadcasting through Pine Ridge and Cheyenne River Sioux reservations. That's a lot of people. It was a seminar about something. I can't remember what it was about. And the radio disc jockey guy was interviewing this guy from our reservation. And he said, "So how do you think it's going today?" And so this guy said, "Yeah, we've been meeting here all day long, and boy, we sure been having a lot of intercourse." And he kept going on and on. The DJ started to smile. Then some people were laughing, and he meant to say discourse, yeah. He said intercourse, so people were just laughing. People were calling into the radio station. They say, "What kind of orgies happening up there in Cheyenne River? Anyway, where's that at? I wanna go there." Yeah, we've been meeting all morning, and we've been having a lot of intercourse. And shit. So I meant to say expound. Okay, I just ask that you think about these things that I said. Nothing more. And thank you very much for taking time to tune in and listen to the show. Yeah, I really appreciate it because I enjoy talking about these things with you. And I wish you a good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, good night, sweet dreams. And we don't have a word for goodbye. So we say until next time, which is in Lakota language, Doksha Ake. To read more about Lakota Star Knowledge spirituality, you can read my book called Wichocha Otechike. You can see the book cover on the right side of this screen. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota spirituality videos. To purchase this book, please click below where it says Show More. Clicking on that link will open up the description below, and there you will see a link called To Purchase My Books. As you will see, it's an eBay link. Click on that eBay link and there you will see the information to get this book. Lila Pilamayelo. Thank you very much.